as if warning someone unseen. Among the trees, a young man named Aaron moved carefully, his eyes searching for something that had called him here for days. Aaron was not a typical explorer. He had grown up near the forest, playing among its streams and trees. But this was different. The deeper he went, the more he felt an energy he could not explain. The forest's pulse seemed to sync with his own heartbeat. It was not anger or fear. It was longing, as if the woods themselves had waited centuries for someone like him. Near the center of a clearing, he finally saw it. Half buried under roots and moss, a strange object glimmered faintly in the sunlight. It was a small artifact, shaped like a crystal orb surrounded by intricate metal rings, but it was cracked and dull, its power dormant. The moment he touched it, a chill ran up his arm. The metal was warm, alive, and the cracks seemed to pulse faintly like a heartbeat. He knew instantly that this was no ordinary relic. Legends in the village spoke of artifacts that belonged to a civilization long forgotten. They had vanished before anyone could write down their knowledge. Some elders claimed these objects held great power. Others warned they could bring danger if disturbed. Aaron, though, was driven by curiosity and a sense of responsibility. Perhaps it can be fixed, he whispered to himself. For hours he studied the artifact, brushing off dirt and moss, observing its patterns, and trying to understand how it might be restored. The metal rings were delicate, but they seemed designed to move and align in a very specific way. The cracks were not ordinary breaks, they were etched with symbols that glowed faintly as if waiting to be understood. Aaron worked carefully. He pressed the rings gently, listened to the soft hum the artifact made, and tried to follow its subtle guidance. Hours passed, and he forgot the sun climbing the sky. Birds had gone silent, and the forest seemed to lean closer, watching. Finally, with one careful adjustment, the artifact clicked. A beam of light shot upward, scattering through the leaves like shards of liquid gold. The orb's cracks faded, leaving smooth metal and crystal glowing softly with a warm light. Aaron gasped. It was beautiful, but he did not yet understand what he had awakened. Suddenly, the forest seemed to shiver. Leaves rustled without wind, and the shadows shifted in impossible ways. A soft hum, low and deep, filled the clearing, vibrating through the ground beneath his feet. The artifact pulsed in his hands as if alive, and for a moment, Aaron felt his mind connected to it. He saw flashes of something immense, towers rising above treetops, strange creatures moving with purpose, and people who walked in perfect harmony with nature. He blinked and the vision vanished. The forest returned to normal, or so it seemed. The light dimmed and the artifact rested quietly in his hands. What have I done?" he asked, his voice trembling. He decided to take it home, hiding it carefully in his satchel. On the way back, he noticed small changes. Flowers seemed to turn their heads toward him. Animals that usually ran away now watched him curiously. Even the wind felt alive, brushing his face as if greeting him. That night, Aaron could not sleep. The artifact rested on a wooden table in his small room, glowing faintly in the dark. As he stared at it, he thought of the visions, the towers, the people, the harmony. He had restored something old, something the world had forgotten, and he did not yet know the consequences. A sudden noise startled him. It was faint, a whisper that seemed to come from nowhere. "Aaron," it said, soft and musical, like wind through leaves. The young man froze, his heart pounding. He thought he imagined it, but the whisper repeated clearer this time. "You have awakened us." The artifact glowed brighter, casting intricate shadows on the walls. Symbols moved across its surface, forming patterns that seemed alive. Aaron reached out cautiously, touching the orb. The hum filled the room, vibrating in his chest. Then a small figure appeared above the artifact, not solid, but like a hologram made of light. It looked like a humanoid with delicate features and flowing robes. Its eyes glowed faintly. "You have restored what was lost," the figure said, voice gentle yet commanding. "We are grateful, but the world is not yet ready. Prepare yourself, Aaron. Change has begun." Aaron could not speak. He wanted to ask who they were, what this meant, but the figure faded, leaving the artifact glowing softly. The next morning, he stepped outside to find the forest subtly changed. Paths he had walked many times now seemed unfamiliar. Trees leaned in ways that blocked familiar routes. Flowers glowed faintly, and the birds sang songs he had never heard. The artifact's presence had altered something fundamental. He returned to the village to find the elders uneasy. Animals had gathered near homes, watching humans with unusual intelligence. Even crops in the field seemed to grow faster, bending toward the sun in strange patterns. An elder named Lyra approached him cautiously. "Aaron, something has shifted," she said. "The forest. It senses power. I felt it last night. I thought the legends were only stories. Now as I fear they were warnings," Aaron nodded. "I restored the artifact," he said. "I think it wanted to be mended, but I didn't know. I didn't know it could do this." Lyra studied him carefully. "The Forgotten Empire. It is awakening. You may have summoned more than you realize." The word sent a chill down his spine. He thought of the glowing figure, the visions of towers and people in perfect harmony with nature. Could a forgotten civilization truly rise again? And if so, what would their return mean for the world? Determined to understand, Aaron returned to the forest the next day. The artifact pulsed in his hands, guiding him deeper than he had ever ventured. Every step revealed more signs of something hidden, ancient ruins buried under roots, stones carved with symbols he had never seen, and faint lights that danced through the trees. By evening, he arrived at a hidden glade, larger than any clearing he had ever found. In its center stood a massive stone structure, covered in moss and vines shaped like a gate. The artifact thrummed violently in his hands as if urging him closer. Tentatively, Aaron stepped forward. The moment he touched the gate, the artifact glowed with an intense light, projecting images across the clearing, cities of glass and stone, flying creatures that resembled both birds and machines, and beings walking through streets that shimmered with life and energy. Aaron's mind reeled. This was no ordinary artifact. It was a key, a bridge to a civilization forgotten by time, and somehow he had unlocked it. As night fell, the forest around him seemed to hold its breath once more. The artifact pulsed steadily, and Aaron realized this was only the beginning. Whatever the Forgotten Empire was, it had awakened, and it had chosen him as the one to guide its return. And deep in the shadows of the forest, something moved. Something that had waited centuries, something that had been forgotten, and now it was watching. The artifact rested carefully in his satchel, but its energy seemed to leak into everything around him. Leaves shimmered in patterns he could not name. Birds paused mid-song as if listening. Even the wind felt conscious, brushing gently against his face. Aaron's mind raced. He remembered the figure from the night before, the glowing humanoid who had spoken with a voice both gentle and commanding. "We are grateful, but the world is not yet ready. Prepare yourself, Aaron. Change has begun." The words echoed in his mind, filling him with both awe and unease. He followed the path into the forest, drawn by a feeling he could not explain. The artifact pulsed gently in his bag, guiding him forward. Each step seemed to awaken something. Roots lifted slightly as he passed. Flowers turned toward him, glowing faintly, and small animals moved alongside him, curious and unafraid. It was as if the forest itself had accepted him as its companion. Hours passed. The trees grew taller, older, their trunks wider than any he had seen before. Strange symbols appeared on the bark, glowing softly when he touched them. Aaron paused, tracing his fingers over the carvings. They felt familiar, like they were memories he had not yet lived. A shiver ran down his spine. Could these markings be part of the civilization he had glimpsed in the artifact's visions? By midday, he reached a small clearing. In the center lay a stone pedestal covered in moss and vines. Atop it rested a smaller crystal, much like the artifact in his satchel. It pulsed with the same rhythm, faint but steady, as if calling to him. He approached carefully, heart pounding with anticipation. The moment he placed his hand on the crystal, a wave of energy washed over him. He staggered but held on, and the clearing shifted around him. Light formed into shapes, holographic visions of a city rising from the forest floor. Towers of crystal and stone stretched high, connected by bridges of light. Creatures moved along the streets, some humanoid, some unlike anything he had seen, but all in harmony with nature. Aaron could barely breathe. "It's real," he whispered. "The Forgotten Empire." A soft hum surrounded him, and then a voice spoke, not aloud but directly in his mind. "You have restored what was lost, Aaron. Few have the courage and wisdom to do as you have. But the forest is only the first step. To understand us, you must journey deeper." He looked around. The clearing was still quiet, but the air vibrated with power. He realized the artifact had awakened more than memories. It had awakened a presence. He did not know if it was friendly or dangerous, but the energy felt alive, aware of him. For days, Aaron wandered through the transformed forest. The artifact guided him, pulsing stronger when he moved in the right direction. The trees seemed to watch him, forming paths or blocking him when he strayed. He discovered strange creatures, some timid, others bold enough to follow him. One morning, a small bird with shimmering feathers landed on his shoulder and chirped in a melody he could almost understand. Aaron began learning from the forest itself. Stones arranged themselves into simple puzzles, guiding him to hidden clearings or ancient inscriptions. Streams whispered secrets when he drank from them. Every day he felt his mind growing sharper, his senses attuned to things beyond ordinary human perception. One afternoon, he came across a stream that curved around a massive tree. The tree's trunk was carved with intricate symbols, more detailed than anything he had seen. As he traced the carvings, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was unlike the glowing figure from before. This being seemed made of both metal and organic matter, with limbs like smooth wood and skin that shimmered with light. Its eyes were bright, observing him carefully. Aaron froze. Who are you?" he asked, though his voice sounded small against the energy surrounding the figure. The being did not speak aloud. Instead, it projected images into his mind. Visions of the Empire, people working together with nature, machines that mimicked life, and forests that grew in perfect harmony. Then it tested him. Puzzles appeared before him, shaped from roots and stones. To pass, he had to understand the patterns of nature, to think with both his mind and intuition. Hours passed as he solved the challenges, each one more complex than the last. He realized that the artifact had chosen him not just to awaken the Empire, but to prepare him to guide it, to understand its wisdom. The being watched silently, approving each time he succeeded. Finally, the Guardian, he came to think of it as such, projected one last image. A vast city rising from the forest, towers and bridges illuminated by soft light. The world outside is not ready, it seemed to say. But you must be. Aaron nodded, though the voice was in his mind. I understand, he thought. I will learn. I will prepare. That night he camped near the clearing. The forest glowed softly, the artifact pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. He could hear whispers again, this time more coherent, more like voices speaking in harmony. They spoke of balance, of protection, of the ancient empire's duty to the world. He understood that his role was growing larger by the hour. Days passed, and Aaron noticed more changes. Streams ran clearer, flowers bloomed brighter, and even the air seemed alive with energy. But not all was peaceful. Shadows moved where there should be none. A sense of being watched persisted, not from the Guardian or the forest, but from something else, an unknown presence aware of the artifact's revival. One evening, the artifact pulsed violently, brighter than ever before. Aaron held it close, shielding his eyes. The forest shivered and the whispers grew urgent. Then a new figure appeared above the clearing, not hostile but commanding. It seemed part of the Empire, a projection from the artifact itself. You are ready for the next step, Aaron, the figure said. But beware, the awakening of the Empire will not go unnoticed. There are forces beyond your forest, forces that do not wish for balance. They will come. You must be prepared, Aaron's heart pounded. He had expected challenges, but now the stakes were clear. The Empire's awakening was only beginning, and he could sense the shadows growing larger beyond the forest. Determined, he set off toward the deeper woods the next day. The artifact pulsed in rhythm with the earth beneath his feet, guiding him. The Guardian appeared again, observing silently as if ensuring he did not stray. Trees shifted their positions, revealing new paths, and creatures accompanied him, sensing his growing purpose. By nightfall, he reached a massive clearing unlike any before. In the center stood an enormous stone gate carved with glowing symbols. The artifact pulsed violently in his hands, urging him closer. Aaron approached cautiously. The moment he touched the gate, a wave of energy spread through the clearing, revealing visions of the Empire in its full glory. Towers stretching into the sky, machines that moved like living beings, people walking in perfect harmony with nature. Aaron could barely comprehend it. The Empire he had seen in flashes before now unfolded in full. He understood that restoring the artifact had not only awakened a civilization, it had awakened hope. knowledge and power that had been hidden for centuries. As he stood there, the forest quieted, holding its breath. The artifact glowed steadily, and Aaron realized he was no longer just a human in a forest. He was a bridge between worlds, the forgotten empire, the living forest, and the human world. Whatever came next, he knew his journey had only begun, and in the shadows beyond the clearing, the unknown presence moved closer. Its intentions were unclear, but one thing was certain: the awakening of the empire would not remain a secret for long. Birds with shining feathers and small animals accompanied him, moving as if they understood his mission. The path was no longer simple. The forest now shifted to test him. Aaron had learned to read the forest like a book. Stones aligned themselves into patterns, trees bent slightly to reveal hidden paths, and streams whispered secrets when he approached. He realized that the forest was preparing him, teaching him lessons that went beyond human understanding. Every puzzle, every challenge, felt like a training session for something far greater than himself. On the third day of his journey, he entered a dense part of the forest where sunlight struggled to pierce the thick canopy. The air was heavy with the scent of moss and ancient wood. The artifact pulsed with increasing urgency, as if warning him of what lay ahead. He followed its guidance to a clearing unlike any he had seen. At the center of the clearing stood a massive stone platform, covered in vines and ancient carvings. Around it, statues of humanoid figures with animal-like features stood in a circle, their eyes glowing faintly. Aaron's heart raced. He sensed that this place had been untouched for centuries, preserved as a trial for those who sought the knowledge of the forgotten empire. The artifact hummed louder in his hands, and the ground beneath the platform began to shimmer. A translucent doorway formed above it, revealing a vision of the empire in its prime. Aaron could see people moving with purpose, machines that resembled creatures and cities that harmonized with nature in ways beyond imagination. A voice filled the clearing, clear and commanding, yet calm. "Aaron, you have awakened the artifact, but awakening is only the first step. To understand our ways, you must prove your wisdom and courage. Only then will the gates of the empire open fully." The statues around the platform stirred. Their stone forms shifted, revealing simple but clever puzzles embedded in their designs. Aaron approached the first one. It was a stone cube with symbols etched into it. The patterns seemed random, but as he touched them, the cube responded to his thoughts and movements. Hours passed as Aaron solved the first puzzle, aligning symbols with precision. Each correct movement caused the artifact to glow brighter, and the forest seemed to watch, holding its breath with him. When he completed the cube, the first statue moved aside, revealing another puzzle, this one involving a series of glowing vines that had to be woven into a precise pattern. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the clearing. Aaron worked tirelessly, guided by the artifact's subtle pulses and his growing understanding of the forest's rhythm. The vines resisted at first, snapping back into place, but he learned to move with patience, allowing the forest to guide his hands. By nightfall, he completed the second puzzle. The artifact pulsed more strongly than ever, and the clearing transformed. The platform rose slightly, forming a staircase that led to a glowing archway. Through the arch, he could see the vision of the empire again, more detailed now. Citizens moved about, working in harmony, and energy flowed through the city like light through water. Aaron stepped through the archway, and the forest around him changed instantly. The air became lighter, filled with a soft glow. The trees seemed to bow as he passed. He realized that the trial was not just physical. It was a test of perception, patience, and understanding. The forest and artifact had trained him to see beyond the ordinary, to recognize patterns and harmony. As he moved forward, a new presence became apparent. It was unlike the guardian he had met before, darker, subtler, watching him from the shadows. Aaron sensed that the awakening of the artifact had drawn attention beyond the forest. Someone or something was aware of the Empire's return, and their intentions were unknown. Suddenly, a faint hum filled the clearing. The artifact pulsed violently, projecting images into the air. Aaron saw a city far from his forest, a place where humans lived unaware of the ancient empire. Among them moved figures cloaked in shadows, observing, waiting. Their eyes glowed faintly as they spoke in whispers, plotting to claim the power of the artifact for themselves. Aaron understood the danger. The Empire's awakening was not just about discovery, it was about protection. He had to learn quickly, not only to unlock the secrets of the artifact, but to safeguard it from those who might misuse its power. The next morning, he resumed his journey through the forest. The path grew more challenging. Rivers without bridges, cliffs too steep to climb easily, and dense thickets tested his resolve. Yet the artifact guided him, pulsing stronger when he made the right choices. Along the way, he discovered more creatures, some timid, some bold enough to approach. A small fox with fur that glimmered like the stars became his companion, following him faithfully through the trials. Days passed, and Aaron grew more attuned to the forest's energy. He learned to anticipate the shifts in the trees, to listen to the whispers in the wind, and to interpret the pulses of the artifact. Each step felt like a conversation with the forest itself, teaching him lessons of harmony, courage, and wisdom. One evening, he reached a waterfall cascading into a deep pool. The water shimmered with a strange light, and at the base of the falls an entrance opened, a cave carved into the rock. The artifact pulsed violently, urging him forward. As he stepped inside, he felt a rush of energy unlike anything before. The walls glowed with symbols, moving and shifting as if alive. At the center of the cave stood a figure similar to the Guardian, but more imposing. Its form blended nature and technology seamlessly, with glowing eyes that observed every movement. Aaron approached cautiously, the artifact lighting his path. "You have progressed far, Aaron," the figure said, projecting its voice into his mind. "But the Empire is more than knowledge and harmony. It is responsibility. To proceed, you must face your first true trial, a test of courage and integrity. Only those who remain steadfast in their purpose may continue." Aaron nodded, determination filling his chest. He had come this far, and he understood that the journey would grow harder. He was not just discovering the Empire. He was becoming part of it. The figure projected a vision of a world in chaos, a city under threat from shadows that sought to exploit the Empire's power. Aaron had to navigate the vision, making choices that affected the outcome. He realized that each decision, each action, would shape the future of both the forest and the Forgotten Empire. Hours passed as he moved through the trial, guided by intuition, courage, and the wisdom he had gained from the artifact in the forest. Each correct choice caused the vision to flourish, cities rising stronger, nature thriving, and shadows retreating. Mistakes sent ripples of imbalance, forcing him to rethink and learn. Finally, the vision stabilized. The trial ended. The imposing figure observed silently, then nodded in approval. "You have passed the first trial, Aaron. But the path ahead will demand more. Wisdom, courage, and the strength to face forces that will not yield easily. Remember, the Empire's awakening is not merely for discovery, it is for protection and balance." The cave brightened, revealing an exit that led deeper into the forest. Aaron stepped out, feeling both exhausted and stronger. The artifact pulsed steadily, as if acknowledging his success. The forest around him seemed to shimmer with pride, animals and plants glowing faintly in celebration. Aaron knew that the challenges would only grow. The unknown presence that had watched him before remained in the shadows, waiting for the right moment. But he also understood that he was no longer just a human wandering a forest. He was a guardian, a bridge between the Forgotten Empire and the world outside. As night fell, he camped beneath a massive tree whose branches glowed with the energy of the artifact. The stars above mirrored the light below, and for a moment he felt the unity of all things: the forest, the artifact, the Empire, and himself. He had passed the first trial, but he knew the journey was far from over. The awakening of the Forgotten Empire had begun, and with it came both wonder and danger. The whispers of the forest carried through the night, urging him forward, promising lessons yet to come. And somewhere beyond the forest, in the darkness, the unknown presence moved closer, preparing for the moment when paths would inevitably collide. Aaron closed his eyes, feeling the artifact pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. He was ready for whatever came next, determined to protect the Empire he had awakened and to face the challenges that awaited with courage, wisdom, and an unyielding human spirit. softly in his hands, a steady companion guiding him deeper into the mysteries of the Forgotten Empire. Each step he took felt purposeful, yet a shadow lingered at the edges of his awareness, a presence watching, waiting. The morning sun broke through the canopy in golden streaks, illuminating paths he had never seen before. Aaron followed the artifact's guidance, which pulsed stronger with each careful step. The guardian he had met in the cave had not appeared again, but he could feel its quiet approval. The forest seemed to sense his growing strength, bending subtly to ease his path through dense undergrowth and over hidden obstacles. As he reached a large clearing, he noticed a change in the forest itself. Trees leaned toward one another, forming a natural corridor, and the air shimmered with faint lights that flickered like stars trapped among leaves. Aaron felt a pull toward a distant hill where the artifact's glow was strongest. It was there he saw the first signs of intrusion, a group of figures moving through the forest with caution. They were not like him. They wore cloaks dark as midnight, their faces hidden in shadow. Even from a distance, Aaron felt their awareness, their intelligence. They moved with purpose, avoiding the natural harmony of the forest, as though they were outsiders intruding into a world that belonged to the Forgotten Empire. The artifact pulsed violently, almost as if warning him. Aaron crouched low, observing. The figures stopped near a river and began examining something glimmering in the water, a fragment of crystal similar to his artifact. He realized immediately that they were after the same power he had awakened. Aaron's mind raced. He knew he could not confront them directly yet. He had passed his first trial, but the challenges ahead were far more dangerous. Using the forest as his ally, he moved silently along the tree line, observing the strangers' movements. Every instinct told him that their intentions were not aligned with the harmony the artifact sought to restore. As night fell, the figures made camp near the river. Aaron watched from the shadows, noting their careful planning and quiet communication. They did not speak aloud, but gestured in patterns that suggested strategy and caution. They were clever, possibly skilled in ways the forest had not prepared him for yet. Aaron realized he needed a plan. The artifact pulsed with urgency, suggesting a connection between the intruders and the forest itself. He focused, allowing the artifact's energy to flow through him. Images of the Forgotten Empire appeared in his mind. Bridges of light, cities rising in perfect symmetry, and mechanisms that moved like living creatures. Perhaps the artifact could help him protect the forest and its secrets, but he needed to understand it better. The next morning, Aaron decided to test the intruders. Using the forest's guidance and the artifact's subtle pulses, he manipulated the natural elements around the camp. Branches shifted to block paths. Vines grew to obscure clearings, and small animals created distractions. The intruders were cautious, yet they pressed on, determined to reach the artifact's source. Aaron felt a thrill of understanding. The forest was teaching him more than puzzles. It was teaching him strategy, observation, and patience. He had learned that courage alone was not enough. He needed wisdom, timing, and the ability to anticipate moves before they happened. By midday, he discovered a hidden glade where the artifact's energy was concentrated. It was an ancient meeting place with stones arranged in perfect circles and symbols etched into the ground. The intruders had not noticed it yet, but he knew they would eventually. This was the place the artifact had guided him to, a place of preparation for what was to come. The artifact pulsed, projecting faint images into the air. Aaron saw glimpses of the Empire's past. Citizens walking among towering structures, machines that mimicked life, and nature thriving in perfect balance with civilization. He understood that the intruders sought this power for themselves, and if they succeeded, it could upset the harmony the Empire had maintained for centuries. Night fell, and Aaron prepared for what he anticipated would be a confrontation. Using the forest as his shield, he set subtle traps and barriers. Stones rolled quietly to create sound diversions. Vines shifted to mislead paths, and the very wind seemed to guide him, carrying whispers that confused the intruders. As the cloaked figures approached the glade, Aaron remained hidden. He watched their careful steps, noting each move, each pause. The artifact pulsed strongly, feeding him energy and insight. He realized that this moment was more than a test. It was a first trial in defending the harmony of the Empire itself. Suddenly, one intruder touched a glowing fragment of crystal on the ground. The artifact in Aaron's hands pulsed violently, sending a shockwave through the clearing. The intruder staggered back, startled, and the others rushed to assist. Aaron seized the moment. Using the forest's guidance, he manipulated light and shadow to confuse them. Illusions of shifting trees and glowing paths led the intruders away from the glade, deeper into parts of the forest that favored Aaron's knowledge. By dawn, the intruders were lost and the glade remained untouched. Aaron emerged, holding the artifact, feeling both relief and exhilaration. The forest seemed to recognize his victory, the trees bowing gently as he passed. He understood that he had not only defended the artifact, but had also learned the value of strategy, patience, and using his mind alongside courage. For the next few days, Aaron continued his journey, guided by the artifact. The forest revealed more secrets, hidden waterfalls with pools reflecting visions of the Empire, stones that resonated with energy when touched, and animals that seemed to carry messages from the Guardian. Each discovery strengthened his connection to the artifact and the Empire it represented. One evening, as he rested near a glowing grove, the artifact pulsed unusually. Images formed in the air, showing a massive structure rising in the heart of the forest, a city long buried beneath roots and soil, waiting for its time. Aaron's pulse quickened. This was the next stage, the heart of the Empire that had remained hidden for centuries. The artifact guided him to a hidden path that twisted through massive roots and ancient stones. The air hummed with energy, and faint lights danced along the ground. Aaron felt anticipation and awe. He had passed his first trials, defended the artifact from intruders, and learned to work with the forest and its guardian. But he knew the true challenges were still ahead. As he reached the entrance to the hidden city, the artifact pulsed violently, projecting a holographic figure. It was the same humanoid being from before, but now larger, more defined and full of presence. Aaron, it spoke directly into his mind. You have grown stronger, wiser, and braver. But the awakening of the Empire attracts attention beyond your forest. Forces that wish to take power for themselves are stirring. You must prepare for greater challenges. Aaron nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. He understood that the Empire's awakening was no longer just a personal journey. It was a duty to protect knowledge, harmony, and the balance between nature and civilization. The Guardian appeared beside him, silent and imposing. Its eyes glowed softly, acknowledging his progress. Aaron felt a surge of connection to the forest, the artifact, and the Empire itself. He knew that the next trials would test not only his courage, but his ability to defend the harmony he had awakened. As night fell, the forest seemed alive with energy, glowing softly under the light of stars and the pulsing artifact. Aaron camped near the entrance of the hidden city, aware that the intruders were still out there, and that even greater forces might come. But he felt ready. He had learned patience, strategy, and the importance of working in harmony with the forest and the Empire. The artifact hummed steadily, and Aaron realized that he was no longer alone. He was a guardian, a protector, and a bridge between the forgotten Empire and the world beyond the forest. Whatever challenges awaited, he was prepared to face them, not with fear, but with courage, wisdom, and an unwavering human spirit. And in the shadows beyond the forest, the unknown presence observed, gathering strength and waiting for the moment to strike. The awakening of the Empire was no longer a secret, and the next stage of Aaron's journey would test every skill, every instinct, and every ounce of courage he had gained. Hidden city, the artifact glowing brightly in his hands. The visions of the forgotten Empire had become clear, towering structures rising from the earth, streams of energy flowing like rivers, and citizens moving in harmony with nature. Aaron took a deep breath. He knew the final challenges awaited. The intruders were still out there, shadows moving in the distance, waiting for an opportunity to seize the power of the artifact. But now he understood something crucial. He was not alone. The forest, the Guardian, and the artifact itself were his allies. Together they could awaken the Empire fully and protect it from anyone who sought to misuse it. He stepped forward into the city. The streets, long buried under roots and soil, shimmered with light as he walked. Buildings formed around him in holographic patterns, and energy coursed through the stone like veins of life. Aaron could feel the presence of the Empire itself awakening, as though it had been waiting for centuries for someone to lead it back into the world. Suddenly, the artifact pulsed violently, projecting the intruders into the air before him. Their cloaks were dark, their eyes glinting with ambition. "Hand it over!" one of them demanded, voice sharp and commanding. "We know what this is. Give it to us and we can share its power." Aaron shook his head. "This power isn't meant to be taken," he said firmly. "It belongs to the forest, to the Empire, to the balance of the world. I won't let you misuse it." The intruders moved forward, but the forest itself seemed to respond. Trees shifted positions, forming barriers. Vines moved like living ropes, wrapping around paths and blocking their advance. Small animals emerged to confuse and distract them. The intruders struck at the barriers, but each attack only made the forest pulse more strongly. Aaron raised the artifact. It glowed with a light so bright it illuminated the entire city. He focused, allowing the energy to flow through him, guided by the lessons he had learned: patience, harmony, and courage. Light shot from the artifact, forming shapes that mirrored the Empire's citizens, defenders of balance and knowledge. The intruders hesitated, realizing they were facing more than just a boy with a crystal. They were facing the spirit of a civilization, awakened and protected by its chosen guardian. Their shadows flickered against the light, and one by one they retreated, unable to withstand the harmonious energy of the Empire. Aaron lowered the artifact, breathing heavily but filled with triumph. The city around him solidified. Structures rose fully from the earth, stone and crystal forming perfect towers and bridges. Streams of energy flowed along the streets, illuminating the citizens who now appeared, beings of light and life, awakening from their long slumber. The glowing humanoid from before appeared beside him, smiling warmly. "You have done well, Aaron," it said, voice flowing through his mind. "The Empire has awakened and balance has been preserved. You have proven courage, wisdom, and heart, the true qualities of a guardian." Aaron looked around in awe. The citizens of the Empire moved gracefully, tending to gardens, repairing structures, and activating machines that hummed like living creatures. Nature and civilization existed in perfect harmony, just as he had glimpsed in the artifact's visions. "You are part of this now," the figure continued. "You are the bridge between your world and ours. The Empire will thrive again, guided by those who seek balance and harmony. But remember, vigilance is eternal. The outside world will always be curious, and some will attempt to take what should remain protected." Aaron nodded, understanding the responsibility that had been placed upon him. He felt a surge of pride and determination. This was not just his adventure. It was a mission to protect knowledge, to ensure the harmony of the Empire endured. The forest surrounding the city pulsed with life, and Aaron felt a connection stronger than ever. The guardian stepped back into the trees, its watchful presence a reassurance that he was not alone. The animals, streams, and trees all seemed to acknowledge him, a silent pact forming between him and the natural world. Days passed, and Aaron explored the fully awakened city. He learned from the citizens of the Empire, who shared knowledge of advanced techniques, energy manipulation, and harmony with nature. He marveled at their inventions: machines that healed the land, structures that floated in the air without support, and tools that worked alongside living beings. The Empire had been lost for centuries, but its wisdom was now his to share and protect. One evening, while meditating near a glowing stream, the artifact pulsed gently. Images appeared showing the distant world, the village he had come from, cities beyond the forest, and people unaware of the Empire's revival. The holographic images revealed those who might try to challenge or exploit the artifact's power. Aaron realized that his role extended beyond the forest. He would need to guide humanity toward understanding, without disrupting the harmony the Empire had preserved. The intruders from before had vanished, but Aaron could feel their presence lingering in distant lands. He knew they might return, but he was no longer the same person who had first found the broken artifact. He had grown wise, patient, and strong. The forest, the artifact, and the Empire were allies, and together they would maintain balance. Aaron spent days teaching, exploring, and preparing. The Empire's citizens moved alongside him, showing ways to harness the artifact's power responsibly. Streams of energy pulsed in perfect rhythm with nature, and the city glowed under the canopy of the forest. Every moment felt alive, filled with lessons of harmony and cooperation. One morning, the glowing humanoid appeared again. "Aaron," it said, "you have fulfilled your first great task. The Empire is awake and balance is restored, but your journey is ongoing. You must remain vigilant, guide wisely, and protect what you have helped awaken. Your courage has changed the course of history, and your heart ensures that knowledge will serve all, not just a few." Aaron felt a deep sense of peace. The trials, the challenges, and the dangers had all led him to this moment. He had restored the artifact, faced intruders, passed the trials of the forest, and awakened a forgotten civilization. And now, standing at the heart of the Empire, he understood the true power of human determination, intelligence, and harmony with the world around him. The sun rose, casting light across the city and forest. Birds with glowing feathers sang their songs of victory and harmony. Streams reflected the sky, and energy flowed through the city in perfect patterns. Aaron held the artifact high, feeling its warmth and power, a symbol of his journey and the awakening he had guided. In that moment, he knew that the forgotten empire had not just returned. It had returned because of the courage and wisdom of a human who dared to restore what was lost. The world beyond the forest would one day learn of its existence, and humanity could benefit from the knowledge, balance, and harmony the empire offered. But for now, the forest and the artifact pulsed together, a promise of guardianship, protection, and hope. Aaron smiled, feeling the weight and honor of his role. The shadows beyond the forest were still out there, curious and waiting, but he was ready. The artifact hummed in agreement, and the forest whispered its approval. Together, they would face any challenge, protect the empire, and ensure that the harmony between humans, nature, and the forgotten civilization endured. The adventure that began with a broken artifact had transformed Aaron, awakened an empire, and restored a balance lost to time. And though the future held uncertainty, one truth was clear: courage, wisdom, and a heart aligned with harmony could awaken even the most forgotten of civilizations. And so, the forest glowed, the artifact pulsed, and the forgotten empire rose once more, strong, vibrant, and guided by a human who had proven that even a single person could shape the destiny of worlds.